Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
So, it may be Shabbat now, but earlier today it was the most sacred holiday of Black Friday. Black Friday has a very interesting, convoluted, and mythological origin story, something I tried to look into especially hard this year. When I was growing up, well, actually I should say after I had grown up, but I was first hearing about Black Friday, the story that I got was why it was called Black Friday was it was the day of the year when retailers would go from being in the black or being in the red to being in the black. That now they would make the most profits for the rest of their year because up until this point they were just barely breaking even, but the holiday sales and everything that happened during November, December, that was when they could actually, make a profit for themselves. That's not true, by the way. Any business that only makes profit 1 month out of the year is not going to stick around very long. But it's a lot better than the original origins of the term Black Friday. As you probably can guess, the term Black Friday doesn't have an inherently positive connotation. Usually when days are black such and such, something bad happened on that. And indeed, back in the 1800s, this was a problem with a gold speculation deal that the President Grant had to squash, and many people lost their fortunes during that day. But it became more synonymous with, first among retailers, as being a Black Friday because their workers would call in sick trying to get a 4-day weekend by taking the Friday between Thanksgiving and the weekend and just calling in sick and getting 4 days in a row off. And the management would call it a Black Friday because they would lose so many of their workers. But the real firm usage of Black Friday began in Philadelphia by the police force because Black Friday was a trouble day. The day after Thanksgiving was a day that many people would come pouring into the city from the suburbs and surrounding towns. And they would come in not only for shopping, but also for the Army-Navy football game that was usually held that weekend. And there weren't enough cops to go around. And people would get drunk, people would get rowdy, and it was just a day of trouble. And so the police force, and then later the media, took to calling it Black Friday because of all the problems that happened on that day. But they did notice that having so many people in town did increase sales, and so eventually Philadelphia and then other cities in the area began to lean into the idea that this was a shopping day, that this could be turned into a net gain for the city by promoting sales and actually making some money rather than just having to deal with drunken vandals. And thus Black Friday was born as the holiday that we now think of as being this idol to consumerism. And over time, of course, it spread. And although it may seem ubiquitous now, growing up as a kid, way on the other side of the coast from Philadelphia, off in San Diego, I never heard of Black Friday until sometime in the 80s, and then it took off really in the 90s as it became more of a national type of thing. It was not really all that old for the West Coast. Ironically then, we have this holiday of Black Friday that grew out of trouble, that eventually became this miracle of capitalism, allowing people to get fantastic bargains and deals, that people began to look forward to it with such passion that in the early and mid-2000s, it actually became more of a problem again, with various crushes and trampling deaths as people began to become violent over securing the best deals. Black Friday took on a more ominous connotation once again. It's a rehabilitation flag. Eventually, we move into the now modern online era, and Black Friday is now a little bit tamer. As retail brick and mortar sales have gone down, many people will shop Black Friday from their computer or phone, and we are seeing a little bit of the ebb of the physicality of Black Friday, although the consumerism is still alive and well. So what does this have to do with Judaism? Well, Black Friday is not a Jewish holiday. Bluntly put, it is an idol to consumerism. It is a bastion of materialism that proclaims that here on this day and leading forward into a holiday season where gift-giving figures prominently for so many, you can begin to secure symbols of your status and begin to procure the gifts that will buy the affection and respect of those around you. And Judaism simply says, that's not how things work, or at the very least, not how they should work. That you may feel better about yourself because you bought that fancy watch, or you got that new device, or because you have secured that deal on whatever product you think will tickle your fancy. But if that's really what you think is going to make you happy, then come the day after, or the month after, you are eventually going to realize you're no happier now for having purchased this, even at half price, than you were before you purchased it. Because after all, there are still other things you don't own, other things that others have. As Rambam put it so beautifully 1,000 years ago, long before Black Friday had even been thought of, if you think you will be happy once you finally own plates made of silver, you will discover that others have plates made of gold. And if you get plates made of gold, others will have plates encrusted with gems. That if you pursue happiness and status and a sense of self-worth and meaning only through material items, you will always come up short. No matter how good the deal may look, no matter how attractive an option it may be, no matter how easy it seems to be able to put it on a credit card, what you are actually purchasing is just a momentary rush of dopamine and endorphins. A little bit of adrenaline, a little bit of that shock to the system that says, I have secured the woolly mammoth, I have hunted it down, and I have brought it home. But unlike the meat of a mammoth, this is not going to sustain you. This is not going to keep you upright. Instead, Judaism says, yes, the holiday of Thanksgiving, though not directly of Jewish origin, this is a beautiful holiday that we embrace to be with friends, with family, to be grateful and to partake of all of the bounty that God has given us. That is fine. Judaism has nothing against people enjoying the fruits of this world and the gifts that God has given us. But we do so to show gratitude and to show community and to show a filial connection to each other. We don't do so just to own, just to have, or just to display. We are not peacocks adorned with all of our items. We are not creatures that align our residences with all of the gaudy symbols of our success. We are creatures that are of the soul, that are of the spirit. And truly, that is where the adornment needs to be found. And that is where we need to put our emphasis. There are so many opportunities, whether it be Thanksgiving, whether it be each weekly Shabbat, or whether it be any of the other holidays or moments, for us to interact with other people for free, that we are able to enrich ourselves and them. If you find a deal that you need, fine, that's fine. You know, we all have things that we do need, and if you can get it a little bit more cheaply, who cares? That's nice, if it's something that is important to you and your family. But do not think of it as being the path to your success, to your status, to your social position, or your happiness. And certainly do not think that it is a sense of your worth or the meaning of your life. Recognize it as just being an item, a tool. Be grateful that you can have it as you need it, but recognize that there are things that are far more valuable and which God provides for each of us for free. That is the ultimate discount after all, 100% off. All you have to do is open yourself up for that possibility. Shabbat Shalom.